Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And Australia have won this ICC ODI World Cup 2023, this being their 6th title. On the playing 11, starting off with India, they expectedly went in with an unchanged 11. And there was one point of selection, as I'd mentioned in my previous video, where I felt Ravichandran Ashwin would have been an advantageous inclusion in this game, especially considering the surface and the fact that Australia don't like playing against quality spin. The reason why they couldn't do that is because Hardik Pandya wasn't available, and he would have provided that third seamer option, where then you could have played Ashwin and you could have got 3 seamers and 3 spinners. It would have been fantastic going to this game. It was still correct to play 3 seamers, as especially if you're going to be bowling second, or even if you were going to be bowling first during the day, the ball moves around in the first 10 overs of this venue. And if you've got 2 frontline seamers, however good they would be, if one of them goes around, you don't have someone else. And that's why I felt, as an insurance policy and to take advantage of the conditions, 3 seamers was the correct way to go. However, Ravichandran Ashwin would have been an asset in this game, and because of the absence of Hardik Pandya, they unfortunately couldn't play him. But going to the game, I thought they had selected the correct 11, as leaving out one seamer would have been a risk. And in Australia, they went in with an unchanged 11 from their previous game. They played Labuschagne ahead of Marcus Stoinis, which would be good for them. Like I said, the innings builder on this service would be vital. You've got David Warner, Steve Smith, Labuschagne, who've got the grafting gear, but the others look to go after the bowling. And especially after number 4 that have drafted, as far as their team sheet would go, my order would go. After number 4, then you've got players who like to take on the bowling. So that's why Labuschagne was a good inclusion. Pat Cummins won the toss and chose to field first. As an Indian fan, when I saw this on Cricinfo, I smiled and I said aloud, India have won the World Cup. This sounds ridiculous in retrospect, but if I had to watch an 8-hour replay of this game, after the outcome of knowing the outcome of the toss, I would still have thought that India were best placed to win the game from that point. Now, why am I saying that? I think the only reason why Australia chose to field first here is because of the dew in the second innings, which is a huge gamble, as you've seen at other venues, and this could have happened today as well, where by the time the dew arrived, the game could have been done. So this played into India's hands. India would have been looking to bat first regardless. And this Australian side, apart from a few games here and there, have not been great chasers. You talk about South Africa and their vulnerabilities chasing. This is Australian side, apart from a few games, have lost by at least 100 runs when chasing totals, decently sized totals. And that's why I was very happy as an Indian fan that Pat Cummins won the toss and chose to field first. The Indian openers walked out to bat, and after seeing off the first Mitchell Starc over, Rohit Sharma charged down the track in expected style to Josh Hazlewood and took him for runs. This was the correct decision, as the aim was to put him off his length, and considering the form he's been in, I thought letting him bowl by not putting any pressure on him wouldn't have been great for India going in this game. And that's why I thought with the way Rohit Sharma charged down the track, you saw him do that to Matt Henry, was going to work in this case. It did work, where Hazlewood went for 20 odd runs in his first 3 overs and was taken out of the attack. On Shubman Gill, there was an opportunity offered the first ball that he faced, a good delivery ball by Mitchell Starc we didn't carry. And the first wicket loss was a bit of a gift for the Australians, where the delivery should have been hit through mid-wicket for 4, an area that Shubman Gill likes to target. He pulled the ball straight to mid-on, and India was 30 for 1. This wasn't ideal, but I thought if Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli could make sure, like I've said quite a few times, that the second wicket wouldn't be lost before the 12th over, I thought India would have been on their way to register a big score, because I didn't think a change would be made if the second wicket was lost before the 12th over, and that is a point to consider as I review the rest of this innings and the game. A partnership ensued between Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli, where 46 runs were put on for the second wicket. And as has been the case throughout this campaign for India, role clarity was on show here, where Rohit Sharma was the aggressor and Virat Kohli played second fiddle relatively. I say relatively second fiddle because he was on 21 or 15 at one point, where he hit 3 consecutive 4s off Mitchell Starc. And one of the shots of the innings would be the second out of those 3 4s, where he played a square drive off the back foot. And with the way he started off in this innings, I thought this would be a good day for him with the bat. And India was 76 for 1 in 9.3 overs, and it was nearing the end of the power play. I'd said if a second wicket isn't lost before 12 overs, then India don't need to change their batting lineup. And this was a juncture where the game could have gone in the way it was going, or in the way that it went. I thought this was a major turning point of the game, where you saw since Josh Hazelwood had gone for runs early on, Mitchell Starc had gone for runs early on, you've got Adam Zampa in the first few overs. I think he was only brought on later after this phase, but you've got Glenn Maxwell for some reason. He was introduced before Adam Zampa and Pat Cummins were. The captain didn't know what to do when Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli were going this well. And if India had just waited for 2 overs, or even longer than that, where you don't lose a wicket for the next 2 overs, but you also make sure you develop a big partnership, either in this partnership or in the next one, to get quite an advantageous position, a foundation for you to build on in the latter half of the innings. What happened? Rohit Sharma, who, yes, he's been playing in a way where he's been putting his heart on his sleeve this tournament. He's charged against everyone and has scored 40 odds in most of the games in this campaign. 9 out of 11 games where he's scored at least 40 or more, which is fantastic, especially with the way he's been looking to play. With the ball that he tried to target, he targeted Glenn Maxwell. He got a 6 and a 4. The last over of the power play, I thought if Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma extended their partnership to however long they extended it to, this game may have been done. India could have got a 300 plus score if you extrapolate things from there, and this could have gone quite differently. What does he do? He tries to attack Glenn Maxwell again. The ball is skied, and a fantastic catch under pressure from Travis Head. Now, at that point in time, I thought 2 things. One, Rohit Sharma not being there to shepherd the innings along wouldn't have been as good for India, even though you've got Virat Kohli still there. And secondly, I knew they wouldn't make the change where Shreyas Iyer would walk out at 5 rather than at 4. Because you've seen when he's walked out within the first 10 overs, as I've said, when the ball is moving around early on, he's frenetic against the moving ball. He struggled. You saw after scoring a boundary of the first ball that he faced off Glenn Maxwell, I think the last ball of the power play, Pat Cummins bowls to him and the ball seams in a touch. You saw the way he was dismissed, and I expected him to be dismissed that way if he walked out earlier. And from 76 for 1, they went to 81 for 3. That was a turning point in this game. And really, the way that it even got there was that I thought, and this is from a tactical point of view from the Australians, where I said Rohit Sharma charging down the track to Josh Hazelwood would give India the impetus. I said he'd attack Mitchell Starc, and he did. And I thought those 2 things happening were quite predictable. And I'd said even before, Pat Cummins will bowl himself at first change, even though that went well for him this game with a slow ball bouncer he likes to bowl and the bouncer that he bowls well. That went well for him at this game, but India got 76 runs before Pat Cummins got that first breakthrough. Had he opened the bowling ahead of Josh Hazelwood, how easy would it have been for Rohit Sharma to charge down the track to Pat Cummins? It would not have been easy. Josh Hazelwood is a length bowler, but I feel wouldn't have been able to cope. And you saw that he wasn't able to cope as much when Rohit Sharma was putting him off his length, whereas Pat Cummins would have been able to cope with him better. And it's got the pace also to adapt. So I feel that's something that I knew they'd miss a trick on. But you're looking at the start that India have got off to. They threw it away, but also Australia let them get off to that start predictably because Pat Cummins once again didn't build him up front alongside Mitchell Starc. A partnership ensued between Virat Kohli and KL Rahul where, even though the rhetoric is only 1 boundary was scored between them, I thought they managed things very well, especially considering what their initial role was. What their role was that until especially the 25th over, India had to go wicketless. I said before that when playing ODI cricket at this venue, if you're 125 for 2 in 25 overs, you're going well to set quite a good score. India were 131 for 3 after losing 3 wickets for 81 runs. However, if you've got Virat Kohli and KL Rahul there, both those 2 who can bat quite a bit of time, then I thought India was still in a good position at the halfway stage. They managed things quite well in this partnership where they took a lot of singles on offer. They had to because they couldn't get the boundaries, but with the way that they got the singles, both those players technically sound, and I backed them to get singles off good bowling, and they did that. Australia also got through a couple of part-time overs in where I thought the reason why they included Travis Head at that point in time was because you saw when South Africa were 119, I think he was introduced and he got 2 wickets of Henrik Klassen and Marco Jansen. That wasn't going to work here when you're playing against Indian players who are fantastic against spin, and it didn't work. Mitchell Marsh also bought 2 economical overs, but the key for India was that because of how well Rohit Sharma had given the start for India and how Virat Kohli had started off the blocks in the early part of his innings, they could afford a slowdown where they were still going at a very good run rate of over 5. So 131 for 3 in 25 overs, where you've got the technically sound KL Rahul and Virat Kohli who can bat time. I thought that was the India were in a good position after being 81 for 3. This partnership went on for a couple of overs more, where India were 148 for 3 in 28.2. And just when you start to get quite a bit of optimism back, I thought when India got to 150 for 3, if they had got there, I thought they'd be well set. And it took that kind of a delivery to dismiss Virat Kohli, where the ball reared up, and it was really that he played to third man a lot of the time. He ran the ball down to third man all the time, and he played the ball back onto his stump. So he was looking really good. I thought he was going to get a century, and unfortunately it didn't work out. It's a case where I said in the previous game, since he got the 50th century off his back, he'd be focusing fully on doing whatever he can to win the game for India. And he was focusing from ball 1. He looked fantastic. And it took that kind of a dismissal to dismiss him today. And he looked quite taken aback when he was dismissed. I'm sure a lot of Indian fans were quite disappointed at that. It wasn't his fault. It took that delivery to dismiss him on the day. An innings cut short, I thought, because he's looking really good. And this is where, so Shreyas Iyer's role in the side today would have been to take on the likes of Adam Zampa, where India still didn't lose a wicket to Adam Zampa in his first 3 overs, but Shreyas Iyer's role was to take on Adam Zampa during the middle overs. Now, if you're considering the template when you're batting at this venue, you saw India when they went hard during the power play. Then I'd said Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli should kind of rotate the strike a bit for the next 10 overs. Now, if you're considering that, and especially when the second wicket fell, would you have rather sent out KL Rahul then, or would you have sent him out when you're 81 for 3, where he has to play more of a grafted role? Now, I don't mind what happened until the 25th over, and I still wouldn't say with the way that he went, it was a bad innings by any means, because it wasn't his fault that he had to go like that. Because I knew the management wouldn't send him out at 4 to avert the crisis, and I'd mentioned this from an Australian point of view in the second innings, going to that from my preview video. But in India's case, I knew KL Rahul wouldn't be sent out at 4, and therefore he'd have to bat more cautiously, as Shreyas said, if he walked out before the 12th over, and if he was most likely dismissed, especially in the way he was dismissed, then Rahul and Kohli had to play defensively. So really, if you're looking at the template when going about things at this venue, from 25 to 40 is when you should go a bit harder than at the death overs, because the death overs, like I said, you should get 1s and 2s and get the odd boundary here and there. As India found out, it is not easy to score, as Australia also bowled very well. So India were stuck in a catch-22. Rahul was stuck in a catch-22 where, because Virat Kohli was dismissed out of the blue, you considered India's batting depth, where it's been the correct decision to go with 7 batsmen and 4 pure bowlers, and it was once again correct to do that in this case. But in the last few games, because Shreyas Iyer has walked out after the 12th over, India's lack of batting depth, so to speak, hadn't been exposed before, because things are going quite well. The moment you've got a case here where they should really be accelerating, but they couldn't because Virat Kohli was dismissed. You've got Jadeja, Suryakumar Yadav to go well at the end, which would be tough even in this case to explode on this kind of a surface, and then you've got the bowlers. So Rahul was caught in the catch-22. He played a good innings, yes, but I thought because of the way the lineup was structured and the inconvenient wicket of Virat Kohli being lost at that point in time, then it was going to be tough for India to get the score they wanted to get in this game. And from then on, the wickets tumbled. Jadeja was dismissed in the penultimate ball of the 36th over. KL Rahul was dismissed by Jaffer from Mitchell Starc, where I have no complaints with Kohli and Rahul's dismissals. They were looking that good that it took those kind of dismissals to get them out. And Suryakumar Yadav, credit to the Australian bowlers, especially Josh Hazlewood. He bowled brilliantly to Suryakumar Yadav. After going for runs in his first 3 overs, he was brought back, and then you saw what he's been doing throughout this campaign. And I'll say this again, this shows, like I've been saying before, he doesn't have to bowl with a new ball to be successful. if he had bowled in the middle phase with Adam Zampa being the attacking threat after you've not given 80 runs in the power play since Pat Cummins has bowled up front with Mitchell Starc, would India have got this far, even though India batting first would have been preferable for them? And I'd still say Australia at the toss took a risk choosing to field first. So I'd say that would have been the easier way to go about getting what they wanted from the bowling innings. Instead, they gave India an opportunity. They let them get off to that start where that was important. You'd say the big three for India in terms of the players who... Which three do you expect to stand up in pressure situations with the bat? You think Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli and KL Rahul, those three played well. But I thought because of the start that India got off to, you thought even when the partnership between Kohli and Rahul was going, they'd got a base to build their partnership from to allow the slowdown. So I still thought Australia had done a good job in this innings, but it could have been better if Pat Cummins had opened the bowling and the innings had went in a relatively similar way. On the Australian bowling figures, Mitchell Starc, after going for 29 runs in his first 4 overs, where he picked up a wicket, but even that was a gift. He came back well in his last 6 overs. He had for 26 runs and picked up 2 wickets. And I thought as far as the second spell went, he could have been brought on a bit earlier when the Kohli and KL Rahul partnership was in its earliest stages. Instead, they bowled Mitchell Marsh and Travis Head before him, which I didn't quite get. But after the power play, India were always consolidating during the first innings, and that's why his figures are going to take a turn for the better. He wasn't in any sort of form before the knockout stages, but went well in the semi-final and in this game, and so yeah, very good on him. And Josh Hazlewood, 2 for 60 in 10, where predictably he struggled to adapt and Rohit Sharma was charging down the track. Once again, he was brought on in the consolidation stages, and his figures improved, and he bowled brilliantly to Suryakumar Yadav at the end. Glenn Maxwell, not too much to say about his 6 overs, but he took the 1 wicket that changed the course of how the game was going. So that was a vital wicket for Australia. Pat Cummins, I'd said in the previous game, 3 for 51 and 9.4. It looks good, but with the decisions that he took, this could have costed Australia the semi-final. What does he do? He bounces back where he doesn't go for a boundary in his 2 for 34 in his 10. And his wicket, Australia said, after Rohit Sharma's wicket had been lost, that affected the turning point for Australia. And from that point in time, they gave a quite convincing performance to go on and win this game. So I thought his performance, especially when compared to the previous game, a change in thought in terms of how he went individually. And yeah, very good performance from him in this game. Adam Zampa, 1 for 44 in his 10. And I thought, especially when he bowled at the death, he made sure when India wanted runs at a stage where it wasn't the stage to start going gung-ho, since one, on this surface, that's not how you would get runs in the last 10 overs. And secondly, that's why getting runs in the phase before that was vital. And since India couldn't do that at a brisk pace before then, they were going to struggle to death, especially with Adam Zampa bowling 2 or 3 overs, so well done from him. And Mitchell Marsh and Travis Head, they went to 2.5 and 2 respectively. So Australia got the overs out of the part-time bowlers, 6, 2 and 2, and then bowled 40 overs as the frontline bowlers, and they got their reward. Before the game, the only thing I was thinking from an Indian bowling point of view was that dismiss Travis Head, you win the game in whatever case, whether you have to bowl first or bat first. And even though there was some debate, and there still is some debate as to the score India got in the first innings, maybe 30 runs short, however, I thought 240 would still be a tough chase for Australia if India get it right. And I backed them to get it right. And at the start, it was a bit of a nervy start for David Warner, where the first ball went for 4 off an edge. It went between the slit fielders where maybe the catch could have been taken. And it was a sign of nervousness from India early on in the second innings after what happened in the first innings. And Travis Head, predictably, it's a case where, is he the most technically sound? No, he isn't, but he still manages against good bowling. And even though he's got that zone of inhibition outside the off stump, where he did struggle with in the early part of his innings, I thought with the way that he attacked Bumrah, that was going to be the way that he approached things. And Australia were looking to break the back of the chase. And David Warner being dismissed was the first out of 3 cases of Australia not helping themselves in the second innings. Once again, a nothing shot of the bowling of Mohammad Shami, who in his first over, once again, he struck. He's playing a fantastic tournament. Now, from an Indian point of view, there are 2 things. One, yes, Mohammad Shami being brought onto bowl, I think because they only had 241 runs to defend rather than close to 300. If that was the case, Siraj would have bowled. All well and good that Shami took the first wicket to fall in his first over. However, in that case, if you're going to bowl him for more overs, which they were going to do so, then you are going with 4 bowlers rather than 5. The moment Siraj wasn't going to open the bowling, he wasn't going to be of much use because bowling with a new ball is pretty much his only strength. As of now, he's a fantastic bowler, the new ball, but if you don't use him, then there isn't really too much there as of now. Unfortunately, I wouldn't blame him as for how he went either because he couldn't bowl in a phase of strength. A partnership ensued between Mitchell Marsh and Travis Head, where again, this was another phase where Australia made things difficult for themselves. Well, a case where Australia made things difficult for themselves. If Steve Smith or Marnus Labuschagne had walked out at number 3, as in the previous game, when you've already got Travis Head going gung-ho, but in a way where he's not trying to absolutely swing at everything, it's more controlled swinging, Australia would have found things much easier in this chase. What did they do? You saw what happened in the first game where they sent Mitchell Marsh out to open against Bumrah with the ball moving around. In this case, apart from a 6 and a 4, he looked completely not in the zone. And I didn't expect him to be in the zone as him walking out at the top of the order, close to the top of the order, when the ball moving around would not go well. And that's why he was dismissed for another nothing shot where the scores on 41 for 2. And I thought Steve Smith being dismissed in a case where he wasn't out, he surprisingly didn't review it, but him being dismissed was vital for India as he was looking very good. He played a fantastic on-drive off the bowling of Jasprit Bumrah, and I thought he was looking in the zone to take Australia home in this game. And with him being dismissed in a way where he should have reviewed it, I was very surprised that he didn't, but it was good for India. Australia were 41 for 3. Now I'd say again, with the shot that Warner played, with Mitchell Marsh being sent out at 3, and with Steve Smith not reviewing that dismissal, those are 3 things where Australia didn't help themselves. That was what created the opportunity in the second innings, where yes, Travis Head and Marnus Labuschagne finished things off, but I thought at that point, if Travis Head was dismissed soon, the game was over then and there based on what Australia had to come. And I think the one thing for Australia was that after the 3rd wicket fell, they showed Travis Head on the screen, and when you looked into his eyes, you got the feeling that it's the kind of look that you get from Ben Stokes, where when England are in trouble, you're seeing the iconic knocks that he plays, and he's got that look where, okay, he's in the zone. Travis Head looked set, and I thought, even more than before, they've got to get this guy out. And I thought with Marnus Labuschagne walking out at 5, a technically sound play, even though I used the word averting the crisis, it'd be the opposite of that. They sent Mitchell Marsh out at 3 for some reason, predictably, and Marnus Labuschagne was again having to rebuild rather than to avert the crisis. I thought India did have a chance, and I must say from this point onwards, it was a case where both of the batsmen managed things brilliantly. And from an Indian point of view, I thought the field sets were defensive from the outlet. You had the foot on the throat as from an Indian point of view, and yet for some reason there was no sense of an attacking field at all. I thought the spinners at times didn't hit their lengths, even though they didn't go for as many runs in terms of economy rate. But when you're defending 240 odd, the moment Australia got 30 runs in singles, it was going to be difficult. By the drinks break, India was seeming a bit frenetic, and from then on the runs started to flow, where as in the early stages of, or really as in the stage of the partnership between KL Rahul and Virat Kohli, the runs came in singles, but that was enough at that point in time, especially when you're chasing 240 odd with the dew coming in as well. And I thought Australia both the batsmen managed things brilliantly, because they would have known if one of those two got out soon, the match would have been over, as you've got a Glenn Maxwell who, based on what he did in the previous game, I don't think he would have done much walking out early in this situation. Josh Inglis scored 28 in the previous game, but having to bat time to score 180 runs rather than 80 odd runs in the previous game, it would have been difficult. So that's why both Travis Head and Marnus Labuschagne would have known they had to do it for their team, and they were brilliant on the day. Fantastic innings from these two. Travis had 137 of 120. I knew he'd play well today, and I'm unsurprised. Marnus Labuschagne had said he scores around that 35 run mark usually in an ODI innings. Today, We know he's technically assured. He played Bumrah with assurance early on, and 58 of 110, played perfect second fiddle to Travis Head. The tactical management during this partnership was fantastic, where Travis Head was the one that did the controlled attacking, and Labuschagne just held one end up because he knew what there was to come after him. So, fantastic innings from both those two, and Australia have won their 6th World Cup. Where this has been said in the aftermath of this as well, where they've won 5, but I feel this one, beating an Indian side that is in their own backyard, that has won 10 on the bounce in such a manner, and to win in such a comprehensive fashion as well by 6 wickets, where even the wickets that were lost, you inconvenienced yourself, and that's why the wickets were lost. So I thought both these two got through the initial tough phase, and then it was only one-way traffic after that. So standing from Australia, I've said that even in my preview, if you've got the generational players that have been around for a while now in terms of David Warner, Steve Smith, etc., who you don't know whether will be around for the next World Cup, for example, and I've said that they'll be going into a transitional phase. When you've got those players there, they can beat anyone, and that's why those players once again have claimed another ICC trophy. So well done to them, and especially after losing the first 2 games. Again, I expected them to qualify because of the nature of the surfaces they'd be playing on from the 4th game onwards, but after the 2nd game, they were back to their best and have won this trophy, so well done to them. And in India, the reason why I wanted them to win this World Cup has got nothing to do with the fact that they haven't won an ICC event in 10 years. And with the way they've gone during this campaign, it's added fuel to my reasoning. That reasoning being, I thought Rohit Sharma lifting that trophy at the Narendra Modi Stadium would have been a just celebration of, or would have marked a just celebration of what this group of players have brought to us. They've entertained us thoroughly throughout their playing careers thus far. And I'm not saying this in terms of a competition with any other sides. It's a case where the only bit of competition that I even had in my mind was against a Twitter journalist that were talking about the pitch. Apart from that, there was not a single thought in my mind of India competing against another cricketing 11, because I thought if they get it right on the day, they've got the side, especially playing at home, to beat every team. And you saw that with the way they've been winning games up until this one. And had they won this game, it would have been great to see Rohit Sharma lift a trophy where all the 15 players and the backroom staff would have deservedly been on the podium. Their faces would have gleamed with satisfaction and happiness, and rightly so, and the whole country would have celebrated. There were some influential individuals watching in the stands as well. And especially with the Indian Prime Minister, if he'd handed the trophy to Rohit Sharma, it would have been something. So I wanted India to win because I wanted the 15 and the backroom staff to get their just reward. I wanted them to be at their happiest after accomplishing a great feat. And had they done that, the next 1 year or so would have been a honeymoon phase where I felt, first of all, the 15 wouldn't have been playing in the upcoming series, I think a few days against Australia, where both sides were putting out a second string side. And secondly, what you saw in 2011, where the IPL season after that World Cup win, when India are at the top of the world, it feels so much better than it already does feel watching the IPL. And I really wanted those players to be able to bask in the limelight of their achievement. But what to do? They've provided some great movements throughout their playing careers, and even this tournament, it's been a fun experience. Where you look at the first semi-final and you think it's a knockout game, and yet after the innings break, you're talking about Virat Kohli's 50th century and India scoring 397 runs at the board. The only bit of stress in that game was when Darren Mitchell and Kane Williamson were going, and even then it was a long way to go for them to affect a win in that game. So India have been that clinical this tournament, and unfortunately missed out in the final hurdle, where I mentioned the tactical battles that didn't go their way. But I don't think it takes away from the fact that they've been a great group of players to watch. They deserve all the praise, especially with the way that they've gone through this tournament. And I think there's a second string series now between India and Australia in the next few days. The T20 World Cup will be in that June time, and hopefully with the great crop of players that India have got, they can go on and win that trophy. No matter what, with whatever format it would be, with the crop of players India have had, do have, and will have, they will be at the forefront of winning any trophy that's on offer. And I think we've seen that throughout their history, and we will see that in the future as well. So, well done to India for their campaign, and well done to Australia for winning it, their 6th trophy. And yeah, let's see what the future has in store. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?